Good evening, everyone. My name is Captain Linson, and welcome to another episode of My Army Medicine Story. So every day well, not every day, but every week we try to come on here and just give you a different story of some of the physicians that we have and introduce you to some of the wonderful occupations that the Army can provide. So I hope that you enjoy today's episode and stay tuned. All right, so today we have a good one. I am going to bring up my co-host. So first I will bring up Captain Weaver so she can come on here. You all are very familiar with her.
Hey, TRICARE, how are you doing?
Hello,
or Captain
hello.
Linson, I should say.
How are you this evening?
You know what? I'm wonderful because guess what? It is Friday Eve. Tomorrow is Friday, and we have had a great and productive week here at the 5th Medical Recruiting Battalion. And what were you up to today? What event did you do?
So today was quite busy. I went to Texas A&M, spoke on a Q&A panel today, spoke a lot about the Army and just the wonderful things that we can do for our medical students, for those going through the residency programs, and just how we can help people get from one point to the next to basically come out of this thing debt-free and be able to breathe a little bit easier.
Heck yeah. I mean, that's definitely a motivator for sure. At the Kansas City Medical Recruiting Station, we actually celebrated Sergeant Perilla's indefinite re-enlistment today. So shout out to Sergeant Perilla.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Really proud of you. And, just thankful that you made that indefinite commitment to, continue your service and make it to that 20 years. So shout out to Sergeant P.
Yes, congrats, Sergeant P. Congrats. So speaking of P's, we're going to bring on Captain Parham next. So he can introduce himself.
Good evening. How are you guys?
How's it going, Captain Parham?
It's wonderful. And so I just want to say, Holly, you get so excited for Friday Eve and the running joke with Christmas. I can only imagine what you're like on Christmas Eve.
That's, our guest, he actually isn't aware of the joke with the Christmas, but, for all the viewers out there that have been watching our show for a little while, they know that I like to keep my Christmas tree up past Christmas sometimes. And, fortunate for our viewers out there, I took it down in March, but it'll be back up around after Halloween time. So it'll be back. Don't worry. But you know what? We got to stay happy and cheerful all year round because we're here sharing the stories of Army medicine professionals to get you excited about your potential Army medicine story. So Brandon, without further ado, would you like to go ahead and bring on our guests?
Absolutely. I'm super excited. Tonight we have Colonel Dr. Robinson, who is a preventive medicine physician. And without further ado, hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Thanks for having me today.
We are excited that you're here.
MRB 5th. That's what I'm talking about. Let's get it on.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
We appreciate the shout out.
Cool.
All right, so let us get started. So, sir, would you just like to give the people some information about you, some fun stuff that you want to provide, a short bio?
You want me to give a short bio? Okay, here's the short bio. I'm in the Army. I love what I'm doing. I'm a preventive medicine officer at FORCECOM, and FORCECOM is a force provider for the Army. I get to work for and with a bunch of great people. My job specifically is to make sure that the individuals within FORCECOM are fit to fight. My job is to protect them and protect their families and make sure that they're ready. So it's community resilience, soldier resilience, and making sure that we provide the soldiers that are fit when they deploy or when they move around the United States. And COVID is definitely a challenge for everyone, especially me. since I'm generating a lot of the policy within FORSCOM and also helping DOD with their policy. So what else do I do on a daily basis? When I'm not dealing with COVID, I'm usually in meetings and working with the other operations guys to make sure that that we provide, like I said, the best possible force out there. So we're always thinking ahead. We're usually 6 to 9 months ahead, trying to think and trying to anticipate what's happening in the United States and around the world. So it's a global mission. We have a global job. We have a global reach, and it's fun. And that's what I do. Over. I love doing that, by the way.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
so-
you. That lets us know when we just jump right on in there.
Absolutely. And I mentioned this backstage, but you are the most tabbed out physician that I've met as of yet, which came with an incredible backstory of all of your experiences. Do you mind expanding on some of that for us?
Yeah, I've had fun. And like we said backstage, I've had an opportunity to do a lot of things in the Army. In addition to being a preventive medicine officer, I am a surgeon. I did trauma surgery for a lot of years. And then once I got tired of that, I decided I wanted to do public health because I felt I could reach more people as a public health officer. So I was also a deputy hospital commander at Fort Riley, where I had an opportunity to change what was going on in the hospital and to see that change. It was actually a phenomenal experience. I love Fort Riley, love the individuals there, had a great time. Before that, I spent probably about 12 years in special operations, where I had a myriad of jobs. I just had fun, doing the Army's business around the world with a lot of deployments. And now I have a family, so like I said backstage, I can't do that anymore. So
it's definitely a different experience with the deployment and the family. It really is.
So sir, I've got a question for you. Oh, you want to go ahead, Holly?
No, I'm good. I'll save mine.
So I have a question because, as I've often said, since I have kind of been in this public health space, is that you don't really know that you need public health or preventive medicine until there's a public health or preventive medicine problem. And then you realize, oh, we actually do need public health or preventive medicine. So in light of this pandemic, how have you seen the response, or people treat preventive medicine or public health differently than maybe what they were before, or even if you've seen a difference?
Well, no, that's a great question. And as you can imagine, public health has become really important, especially in the military, because we have so many people that are moving around. I mean, we have all these pieces that are going overseas, that are going across the United States, because we interact with different organizations. Public health has really become extremely important to the force, important in the sense of now people call me. I mean, I got a bunch of phone calls before, but as you can imagine, now I get calls throughout the night with people asking, hey, what are the requirements to go to Germany, or the requirements to go to CENTCOM, which is the Middle East, or PACOM, which is Korea. So it's making sure that we meet those requirements. And in addition, back at home, we look at things like what's going on with lead and the houses, and how do we put in lead abatement programs. So it's across the spectrum, and it was always across the spectrum, but now COVID has put a enormous light on public health and preventive medicine. And so the public health professionals that are out there now, people see that they're worth their weight in gold, because again, you don't know you need us until you need us.
Thank you for that.
Okay, sir, my question is, so you kind of talked about being in the Army, and you just had a lot of fun, and so you've done a lot of different things. So, backstage, we kind of talked about, so you started out as a soldier, and then you were an infantry officer, and then you were a medical service corps officer, and now we found out that you were a trauma surgeon, and now you're a preventative medicine officer. So
yeah, he left that out earlier.
So you have basically had many different careers, basically multiple lives in the Army, as if you will. But if you could go back in time, is there anything that you would change about your Army story, or would you keep it the same with all your career paths, and why?
Well, that's an interesting question. Would I change anything? I don't think I would change anything, only because it would change who I am now. And I really think all the experiences that I had being a soldier, and I was enlisted soldier. I forgot to tell you guys that backstage. It's on the bio I sent you, by the way. But being an enlisted soldier, being a infantry officer, infantry lieutenant, being a medical service corps captain, I think all of those give me the perspective that I have now. So when I look at the problem sets that come across my desk, I'm able to look at those problem sets from a bunch of different directions. And I think that's really important because a lot of the policies that we develop at FORSCOM really impact the soldiers on the ground, especially the company and battalion commanders. And I think if you've never been at that level, if you've never seen what those folks do, if you don't understand what it's like to go out and ruck for miles and miles and be cold and wet, it's difficult for you to create policy. Well, you can create the policy, but you don't understand the impact of that policy. So no, I wouldn't change anything. And again, I've had a great career. I've had a great time in each one of those jobs. And each one of those, like you said, each one of those jobs were completely different, and they bring different facets to my life. So no, I wouldn't change anything. Over.
So with that being said, I just, out of curiosity, I hear it a lot. I was enlisted as well. I'm not sure about TRICARE or Holly. No?
TRICARE was.
Yeah, okay. I hear a lot about just, I guess, the level of respect, and nothing taken away from anyone that goes straight officer, but just the mindset of knowing what it's like at the very lowest level. I joined the Army as a PV3, so PFC. Do you think that it was helpful for you, knowing what it's like, and I guess not forgetting about what it's like to do the inventory and do all of those things? Yes.
So I'm going to say yes. I think it was helpful. I think it was more helpful when I was at the company grade. I think it allowed me to have sort of that common sight picture with the guys that were out there doing the work, and I understood, what was it like to go to the range and stay on the range all day and then have to police brass. I understood that. I understand what it's like to be the range safety officer or walk into a battalion and all of a sudden you get 12 to 14 additional duties. I mean, I understand that. So yeah, I think at the company grade level, I think definitely, man, it makes a difference. I think when you become a field grade officer, not as much, but it still helps, but it's just not the same. And I think that's because you're far enough away from where the rubber meets the road, or the tip of the spear, or whatever you want to, whichever one you choose to use. You're far enough away from that you don't feel it like you would when you're at a company. Right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I thought of another question, just, from talking to you backstage and just from what you've said so far. I feel like you would be the type of leader that all three of us would just like to take for a day and just pick your brain and hear your stories. So let's pretend just for a few minutes that we are your three captains and you're giving us some professional development. What leadership, advice, or, your kind of like 5-minute talk of of what you tell people of what, they can do to be successful and, just, have a good career like you have yourself?
Well, Captain Weaver, that's a tough question, but I like it. I think it's great because it's making me think. So the first thing I would say is understand the enterprise. You have to understand the Army and what the Army is doing, and I think that's paramount to your success. Understand the enterprise, and then understand the people that work for you. And I don't just mean the cursory understanding. I mean understand their needs, goals, and objectives. Get deep into what's going on, and I don't mean all the soldiers that work for you as a captain, because you're probably going to have 200 or 300. I'm talking about the folks that you rate, those lieutenants that work for you, where you're their first line supervisor. Get to know them, understand them, and find out what their needs, goals, and objectives are, and then help them with those needs, goals, and objectives. Some may want to stay in the Army, some may want to get out. That's okay. This isn't for everybody, but whoever wants to stay, we should give them the opportunity to succeed. And the only way we can give them the opportunity to succeed is to mentor them. And I think we have to do that. And it has to be active mentorship. I think that's very important. And now, when I said understand the organization, that means everybody should be able to read the QDR, read the National Defense Strategy, and understand what's in those, and to be able to articulate that to the people that you supervise. Over.
Oh, that's absolutely, yeah, you nailed it. I think you nailed it. Having the experience that you have through all different phases and different jobs, and I think your experience in the Army really combats what a lot of people think about the Army, which is fantastic. I'm joining as enlisted. That's what I'm going to be. There's not a progression. I think that's something that people think on the outside. But you having been enlisted, then an infantry officer, then a medical service corps officer, and using those programs to progress where you've been really combats what I think the general public thinks about the Army. And I would say that probably the majority of us, or all of us here on the live stream, have used those platforms and what the Army offers to progress our career to a different level. So it's amazing.
And I think that's one of the great things that the Army provides. If you're not sure what you want to do, or if you want to, dib and dab in one point or the other, you absolutely have the opportunity to do that. And that's just, the great thing about Army and Army medicine in general. If you don't like it, you can go to another part of it.
Exactly.
So you bring up a good point. Sir, how old were you when you joined the Army?
17.
How old was I? Or
both.
I was 22.
Okay. Holly?
Yeah, I was 17.
I was 24.
Okay. Yeah, I was 18 myself. And so seeing the progression, did you know that you wanted to be a physician or even an officer at 18 years old, sir?
Absolutely not.
No. It's no. Same with me. I think that with the society and you graduate high school and it's like a thing, like you automatically go into high school or go into college. I personally was not ready to I wasn't ready to go to college. I was a terrible student. I needed the Army to provide, I guess, the structure and just instill some of those things for me to be successful. And I didn't learn until I was in my mid to late 20s that's what my path should be. So, seeing you joining at 17 and then moving through that and using those programs is awesome.
Well,
so it looks like
I'm sorry, Holly. It's always, my thing has always been failing forward. you know, and people always ask, you know, the people that I work for, and I always talk to them about failing forward. And to me, that means you no matter what you do, no matter what hurdles come in front of you, you have to keep moving forward. And it doesn't matter. You just keep moving forward. When I was enlisted, I wanted to be a sergeant. So I kept moving forward. When I was a sergeant, I wanted to be a lieutenant. I kept moving forward. When I was a lieutenant, I wanted to be a major, and I kept moving forward. And it just keeps going. And I think the Army gives you the opportunity to do that. You just have to choose to do it. I mean, you think about the folks that get an opportunity to go to college because of the Army, or folks that get an opportunity. Think about me. I got an opportunity to go to college. Army paid for it. I got an opportunity to go to medical school. Army paid for it. I got an opportunity to get a master's degree. Army paid for it. And every single time, you know, I wanted to do something to advance my personal, academic pursuits. The Army paid for it. Now, the Army gets something in return because they get someone that's highly educated and is able to take that education and help the Army by protecting the soldiers. Over.
Awesome. Absolutely. And, you know, let's just go around. For one, you know, I did a scholarship when I was in nursing school, and the program doesn't exist anymore, but it was great. It was the Army Nurse Candidate program. I got a stipend while I was in nursing school and came right in afterwards. And then now I use tuition assistance to work on my master's degree. And then I know, Captain Parham, didn't you do green to gold as well?
Yeah, but don't leave out the fact that you have been selected to go and further your
right.
career.
Okay, so for the last, you know, the last 8.5 years that I've been in the military, I've been a med-surg nurse, but I feel like I've, you know, experienced all the different kind of opportunities that I could as a med-surg nurse, healthcare recruiter, you know, CNOIC, which is a nurse manager, and company commander. So now after this assignment, I'm going to go to the emergency room training course and then be an ER nurse. So, you know, and then after I do that for a couple of years, I could go back to school and I could be a nurse practitioner. I could get my MBA. I could go to CRNA school. You know, basically, if there's a degree, an advanced degree out there, you know, that the Army uses, then, you know, there's a pathway for it. And that's the beauty of, you know, one of the amazing things of being in Army medicine is that you can change your career, your pathway, and you can kind of get all different kinds of experiences that you just wouldn't have the opportunity to have on the civilian side, because you would be stuck working for the same hospital or the same company doing the same thing, you know, unless you were promoted or left that position. So we definitely are blessed in that arena that we have very many educational opportunities as well as career opportunities that are just limitless, to be honest with you.
I agree with that. You know, yes, I did green to gold. I was enlisted. I was a combat medic, and I got up to E7. Decided when I met my wife, I was going to get out. I was going to use my GI Bill, go to school, exercise science, be a physical trainer. My wife was like, "Are you stupid? Why would you get out? It's not okay. Like, you should not do that." So here I am, 17 and a half years. And I told her, I was like, you know, if that's the case, then I feel like I should do something more. And so I did. I applied for green to gold, went to, I was actually here at Lindenwood University in St. Charles, and did my ROTC at Washington University in St. Louis. But yeah, just the pathway. And I think Holly touched on a big thing is it is uncomfortable to change jobs every couple of years, but it really adds to the value of what we do and how we learn. And as frustrating as it can be, I'm very blessed and see the valuableness. That's not really a word. How valuable it is for us moving forward.
Absolutely. So it looks like we definitely have some comments coming in. So we're going to go ahead and pull a few of those up there and just kind of get those rolling. And we definitely encourage any viewers out there, if you have a question or a comment for Colonel Robinson, please share them. I know when I shared the live stream flyer on a few different groups, Colonel Robinson had quite the fan club out there. People far and wide, all across the country were saying Colonel Robinson, he was the best. He's the smartest guy that I've ever worked with. He's the best supervisor. He's, everyone is singing his praises, and we can tell why, because just from our short time here with him, we think he's pretty awesome too. So let's go ahead and bring up some comments here. It looks like Colonel Ha, our battalion commander, is on the line. Hello, sir. Thank you so much for tuning in. He said he's pumped for our mighty Titan captains who lead the way. Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate your support. And if you have any additional comments or questions, please feel free to share with us. And then this is just a little plug, just send in your comments and questions for us. And I believe this person was saying great question to the question that I asked about would you change anything. So, and then this person asked you, Colonel Robinson, how was your experience on transitioning to medical school? What challenges did you encounter and how did you overcome them?
Wow. Now that was an interesting question. I was on active duty, and I left active duty to go to medical school. So the transition, it was tough. But what I did to help that transition, I started studying and I took classes while I was on active duty. And they were night classes, and I took more than I probably should have. And I just started studying. And that was because there was a break. I had I think it was a 5-year break. And so it gave me an opportunity to get back into studying, to get back into the rigors of medical school. And I took some real tough classes, and I did it intentionally. So that was one aspect. The other aspect was the money aspect. And that was, I was in the Army. I was making, I had a salary, and then I had to give up that salary to go to medical school. But I had prepared for that. I knew I was going to be a poor medical student. So, I did what everyone does when they get ready to go to medical school. I took out loans. I got an HPSP scholarship, and that helped with the financial aspect that when you do that transition. But in terms of transitioning to medical school, I started studying like you wouldn't believe, and I gave up my Saturdays. Here at Fort Bragg, I would just study on Saturdays. I gave up most of my weeknights, and I just started studying. And then by the time I hit medical school, medical school is different. I don't care, I don't care what your prior experience is. Medical school is going to be different, but you can lessen the pain by studying before you get to medical school.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Looks like we have one more comment right now, and that's from Major Bailey. She says, Colonel Robinson, one of the best supervisors I have ever had, an awesome mentor.
Is that the same OIC from New Orleans?
It is. It is.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks.
So I believe she's in Alaska now.
She's in Alaska with the family. Awesome person to work with, and I really enjoyed having Major Bailey on the staff.
Sorry, I do have to ask, with the previous question about transitioning from active duty to a civilian school, the challenges, did you find it difficult moving from active duty into a civilian setting, or like the structure and things like that?
It's easy to say no, but it was a little different only from the standpoint of I was prepared and I was ready to go to medical school, and I was more focused. And so I didn't have what I thought at the time. I didn't have the time to play games, even with the professors. I just wanted the information that I needed, and I wanted to keep going. But luckily, I had some good people around me. and they made that transition a lot easier. So, I mean, it wasn't that difficult. I mean, it took me maybe 2 months to get used to what civilians were doing, not just the lifestyle, but just some of the games that people play when you're outside the military. Over.
And with that, were you able to connect with other HPSP students and help them through their process and kind of give them some insight on what to expect once they matched and went to I mean, obviously you hadn't been through residency at that point in time, but just the Army in general.
Well, yeah, we had, but you mean they helped me with that transition.
Okay.
We had a lot of HPSP students. They had a very tight program, and we even had a club. So the club was able to, bring all the folks in. We had a fair number of prior service soldiers who were in HPSP, who were a year ahead of me. So they were able to help me with that transition. It was an awesome experience, just because they were there. And it continued. I mean, every year you would help the folks behind you, and the folks ahead of you would help you. So it was a great experience having that club there to help me out.
That sounds like an awesome experience. So I have a question. From looking at your bio, I mean, I could come up with like 100 questions just from looking at that, because there's just so much in there that we could pick apart and just ask you about. But one of the things that kind of stood out was the fact that you've written peer review articles as well as chapters in different books. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How did you get into that? And what areas of medicine have you written about?
Oh, that's interesting. So now people are going to go and pull my name up, but that's okay. There are two things. One was trauma. I got into when I was at the University of Miami. I was very fortunate to work with some professors that were doing a lot of writing and encouraged me to write. So I was able to write some trauma articles with them, and that was an awesome experience. And then when I was working in the Office of the Secretary of Defense, I started writing more articles about quality, patient safety, the patient experience, and different things on, how to improve the quality of care. So, it transitioned from trauma. Oh, and also teamwork. How does teamwork impact the quality of care that we provide in the trauma environment? So like I said, I was very fortunate that I fell in on people who were already doing a lot of writing and encouraged me to write, and I had an opportunity to really work with them. So it was definitely a interesting experience.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that just actually leads me into my next question. And that, so you mentioned teamwork and affecting the quality of care. As you reflect on your time in the Army and specifically in Army medicine, can you think of a story or a time that you were deployed or just, working in Army medicine, where you can think of a story that involved Army medicine teamwork? It just stand out memory.
Yeah. Well, it's almost everything that we do is basically teamwork, and I'll go back to with Major Bailey. When we were at Fort Riley, we had an opportunity to be the first public health department to be accredited in the Army, and that took an enormous amount of teamwork on top of everyone's normal jobs, because like I'll give you an example. Major Bailey had her regular job. She's an audiologist. She had patients. I had my regular job. I saw patients for occupational health and preventive medicine, and everyone else, all the other officers that we had, they had their regular jobs, but we had a commitment to the Army to see it through. So that commitment was we had to make sure that we met those civilian established goals to get accreditation, to become accredited. It took nights, it took weekends. We worked for about 8 months straight to get this done. And it was an enormous effort. and it took the entire department to accomplish this. It was military, civilians, it was physicians, nurses, our administrative techs, industrial hygienists, everyone, my environmental health folks. Everyone was involved in the project, and everyone had a major contribution to what we did there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. Captain Linson, would you like to go ahead and ask a question?
Yes. So thank you, sir. That accreditation is certainly a big deal, and I know that's something that we were also working towards while we were in Germany as well before I left. And so kind of switching gears a little bit. Well, no, we'll stay there. We'll stay in preventive medicine. So one of my questions to you is that we do have a need for more preventive medicine officers. So what is something that you would tell someone considering coming into the Army? What is it that you think kind of puts us far above and beyond maybe something that they may not be able to experience over on the civilian side?
Well, it's interesting when you compare military, and I've been fortunate. I had an opportunity to work in military and civilian public health environments. One thing about the military environment is the funding. Our funding is consistent. It's constant. The funding in the civilian world ebbs and flows with the political whims of those that run your department, whether it's a centralized health department or decentralized health department. The military health departments are the military health departments. All of them run the same. And the funding stream that we have, we have a direct funding stream. Now, do we need more money in some of the health departments? Absolutely. Some of the military health departments, absolutely. But it just depends on what the missions are, will depend on whether or not we need more money. The difference is the funding stream. The other difference is, with some of the folks, and you guys have already alluded to this, military people, tend to leave after 3 years. And so you get an influx of new blood, if you will. Sometimes you'll get a preventive medicine officer in who's a physician who was trained in HIV prevention and just loves doing tropical medicine. And other times you'll get a preventive medicine officer in who loves occupational health. And so his focus may be on occupational health. Now he's still doing some of the other stuff, but his primary focus, because that's what he likes, is OC health. Or you may have a nurse as the chief of public health whose focus is on community prevention. And, even though she does some of the other stuff, he or she may enjoy, community prevention and community prevention efforts. So it just depends on what you get at various times. And what that does, it brings in that new blood. It's like fresh life within your department. And that happens. Now also keep in mind that a lot of the departments, they're mixed departments. You don't have all military, so everyone's not changing every 2 or 3 years. You have departments that have, like my department was about 80% civilian and 20% military.
Thank you. And can you speak more about the tropical medicine piece? Because I would think if anyone studies tropical medicine, my assumption is that the military would have a little bit more experience with that, more so than what someone else would be able to as far as that.
Yeah, the military has a great tropical medicine program at the Walter Reed Institute of Research. And as a preventive medicine officer, you get an opportunity to study tropical medicine if that's what you choose. You also get an opportunity. I mean, if you want to focus on Trop Med, you focus on Trop Med. If you want to focus on public health, you focus on public health. You can focus on epidemiology. It's like most of the other programs. You have an opportunity to go in a whole bunch of different directions, and that's what makes it so special. But you're working with professionals, and you're working with, and a lot of these professionals are civilians that really love the military, and they can go anywhere they want to go in the world, but they choose to stay in the military. I mean, I've worked with guys that had, 300-400 patents, and you ask, why are you in the military? And they do it because they love the military.
That is great. Thank you so much, sir. Did you have something, Holly? It looked like you were about to say something.
You know me, I could just ask questions all day long. That's just me being an extrovert. Okay, sir, so you just were talking about, that's just the, just part of being in the military, and that's what people like, is just having all those opportunities. In Army medicine, there's this new kind of saying or mantra, if you will, going around, and it's the pride in the patch. What does it mean to have the pride in the patch? We all wear recruiting patches, but we are Army medicine. So what is your pride in the Army medicine, and pride in the patch?
Pride in the patch. Tough question for me. I mean, just like other people, it depends on what patch you wear. But when you talk about Army medicine, you have to look at the history of Army medicine, and the history of Army medicine essentially is the history of the United States. Army medicine has been around since the United States has been around. And, Army medicine has provided service to soldiers and civilians since that time. So the pride comes from knowing that history and knowing the things that Letterman did and the things that Walter Reed did and all the other stuff that happened in the Army. I mean, I can go on and talk about some of the different advancements, whether or not we're doing a malaria vaccine and some of the other vaccines that we've actually developed in the Army. The pride of Army medicine is really taking care of the sons and daughters of our country, and knowing that we've provided that care at no expense. We provided the best care that they could get, and we provided that care in austere environments, and environments that people can't imagine that we provided, but we still did it at great sacrifice to the lives of the folks that provided the care. And that's whether, the folks flying the helicopters or the folks that are putting IVs in arms. They do it because that's what the job demands. So pride in the patch is understanding the history of Army medicine and understanding the history of our nation.
That's very well said, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing your pride in the patch. And we encourage all of our viewers out there, if you are a part of our Army medicine team, we encourage you to share what your pride in the patch is, so we can, hear and celebrate everyone's reasons for having pride in their patch.
Exactly. So, sir, I'm wondering, can you give us a day in the life, even if you can, of a preventive medicine officer?
Sure. And I like that question. So I'm going to go back a year because my life now is a little different, working at the headquarters. So let's go back a year as the chief of preventive medicine when I was at Fort Riley. So my day would start in the gym doing PT. So my day, and it's because I'm an early riser, I would start early in the morning. Early for me is about 5 o'clock. I'd get up. At 5:30, I'm in the gym. I'm out of the gym usually around 6:30, 6:45. Go back, shower up, do whatever. Be to work around 8 o'clock. And then I would go to work. And usually, depending on the day, we would have a morning meeting. I called it a stand-up meeting. So we do a quick stand-up. And this is really brief meeting, no longer than 10 minutes. And then after that, it would go to work. If it was Monday, I would see preventive medicine patients. If it was Friday, I was seeing occupational health patients. So I would start seeing patients. The nurses would come grab me and they would say, hey, we have a patient in the room, and we had this thing on stage, off stage. So when we were off stage, they would tell me about the patient or tell me why they were there. Or if it was one of my previous patients, they would, kind of just say, hey, it's one of your previous patients. And then I would just walk in, talk to the patient, see patients, and render care, and then just keep doing that all day. Usually I didn't eat lunch, but again, that was by choice. So I would just keep going until I finished. A lot of times in between patients, folks would come and they would ask questions, various questions, whether it had something to do with immunizations, because we gave immunizations in our clinic, or whether it was industrial hygiene question. It just depends, environmental health questions. So I would do that all day. And then usually about 4 o'clock, we'd have a quick closeout. And then, we'd clear the whole office out. Everyone would leave. Usually I was still working late, and I'd finish my charts, get my charts done, set my charts on the front desk, go back, do some emails. And usually by about 5 o'clock, I was back in the gym. Instead of doing cardio, now I'm lifting weights. And I would do that for about an hour, hour and a half, and then go home and hang out with my family. That was really my day.
And we did cut into your gym time today, so I appreciate you.
Yeah, you guys are killing me. You definitely cut into that. You guys know you cut into my gym time. But that's okay. This is a good reason, so I don't mind. Now I will tell you, there are other things, like when I was the deputy commander at Fort Riley. A lot of my day, like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I would spend part of the time as a health director, but then I'd spend a lot of time as a deputy commander of the hospital. So I spent time walking around the hospital, talking to folks. I spent time answering questions. I spent time working with the other deputies and going to meetings and trying to figure out different problem sets that we had in the hospital. And that was more of management and leadership. I was also an Arbinger facilitator. So I walked around and I worked with the folks that worked in the hospital to get them to have a different mindset, to understand why they're there. And that's always the important question, is why. And I always started off conversations with why. Why are you here? Why is it important for you to be here? And just to get people to understand that you're not here for yourself. You're here for the patients that come into the facility. And you need to understand that people come to the hospital because they want to have fun. They come to the hospital because they're sick. And our job is to help them with that illness, to somehow make them better, regardless of what it is. So my day was a little interesting as a deputy, but it was fun because I got to work with a lot of professionals across the facility.
Thank you. That's really good information. So one of the things that you brought up is, so coming in as a preventive medicine officer, what are some of the steps of progression that someone could look forward to coming from civilian side, coming into the Army?
Well, the best job that you can do, and what I think is the best job, you can go and be a health director at one of the facilities, one of the installations. So you'll go from being a health director, and then you'll take another job as usually as a chief of a department. So you either go to Washington, D.C., or you'll go to one of the medical centers, and you'll be, work within one of the departments, not as chief, but as chief, but not as the director or senior leader there. So that'll give you some experience. Usually that's the field grade experience. Or you could go to, Armed Forces Health Surveillance Branch, or you can go to the Army Public Health Center where you will work as a staff officer. So that's when you get your staff officer time. Then by the time you do that and you begin to make lieutenant colonel, then you have the Army Public Health direct activities. So you can go to an activity as a commander, usually lieutenant colonel commander, or you can take one of the what I call the fun jobs. You can go do a special operations job, or you can go do a core job at one of the corps, or you can work in one of the division jobs as a division surgeon. So those are the fun jobs that you get to do because you're working around a lot of soldiers and you have direct access to those commanders and you're influencing that whole community. And that job, when you're influencing the community, you're also working with the public health director at the same time. So those are the fun jobs. By the time you reach 06, then you have some other jobs that you're doing where you're either working at a 3 or 4 star headquarters, or you're working again as one of the senior leaders at a medical center, or you're working as a senior leader at meaning division chief or director, division chief, department chief, or directorate chief at the Office of the Surgeon General, at the OTSG, which is Office of the Surgeon General, or the DA staff, Department of the Army staff, or you're working at the with the Secretary of Defense's staff. So you have a lot of staff jobs that are out there that preventive medicine officers do, but you also have a lot of other jobs that preventive medicine officers do that are coded for everyone. So everyone gets that same opportunity.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
So moving back to you're kind of talking about what you did as a deputy at Fort Riley, and you really just got out there and talked to your people. Backstage, we had the opportunity to find out that we know someone in common because I was at Fort Riley and left right before, our paths probably just barely missed because I left in January 2016. You got there in January 2016. And one of your friends and my mentor, Colonel McDougall, we'll just give him a shout out over in Germany. I'll make sure he watches the replay because I believe he would be sleeping right now with the time change. But,
Nice.
I just think that it's really important just to kind of highlight and bring up that when you were in that senior leader position at the hospital, that you did walk around and go and get to know the people that worked with you and worked for you. And one of the people that reached out and commented saying they were so excited about this live stream was someone that you impacted and worked with while at Fort Riley, and that was Shannon Getting. So shout out to her as well.
Exactly.
So I think that's just very important, an important point that you have brought up and that you have clearly demonstrated throughout your career is that no matter how high you get up, it starts with the people and it starts with the front line, the team that's actually with the patients, because they're the ones that are saving lives and helping our fighting force get back to the fight. So you showing the support and getting out there, I think is a great thing. But my question is about the Arbinger. For those out there that aren't familiar with that, can you just tell us what your role in that was and how did that training change your organization?
Oh, yeah, great. Now you're throwing me the hard balls, the Arbinger questions. So Arbinger is really designed to change the mindset of individuals, which will impact the organization. So Arbinger allowed us to look at ourselves, to look at how we were responding to our patients and how we were responding to one another, and then how we respond to others around us in addition to. So what it did for me was it changed the way I interacted with my peers, my subordinates, my boss, and then my customers. And so I started looking at individuals in terms of what their needs, goals, and objectives are, and not as it related to my own success, but as it related to the success of others. Now don't get me wrong. It wasn't like a kumbaya moment. I'm not a kumbaya person. But what I am is, if you want to be in the Army and you want to stay in the Army, then what can I do to help you out? I mean, throughout my career, people have helped me. And I would never say I did this on my own. I had a ton of people that helped me throughout my career. And so why not look at everyone else that I'm around, my first line subordinates? Why not help them to do better? And why not teach them to do the exact same thing for their subordinates? And then if we all are doing that, then I don't have to worry about myself, because everyone else is worrying about me. My subordinates are worrying about me. My boss is worrying about me, and making sure that my needs, goals, and objectives are being met. So we all advance and the organization moves forward. And that's what we were able to do at Fort Riley. We were able to move the organization forward. If you look at our Joe scores, Joe's are scores that look at patient satisfaction. Our Joe scores had a tremendous increase. And I think it was because of Arbinger. And, some people would say, well, it was going to happen anyway. I don't believe that. I think just having folks with an open mindset, it allowed our scores to improve. And there were other things, just interacting with the division and interacting with patients. When you walked around, you talked to patients, patients told you that they were happy. They were pleased to be in the facility and that they enjoyed their interaction. So I think personally, I think Arbinger is a good program. I think it's good for Army medicine. I think it allowed us to move forward as an organization, and it helped our customers, our patients.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it sounds like it was a great program, and it put Fort Riley and Irvin Army Community Hospital in the right direction.
Stop throwing the hard balls, Holly.
Yes, she loves doing that.
Yeah, knock it off.
That's right. But I like to
get people thinking.
All right. That's all right. Come on, bring it on. Bring it on.
Okay, sir, you asked for it. This probably is not a super difficult question. So the medical recruiting brigade in general has started recently, since I've been here, within the last 2 years or so, the physician recruiting team, right? What would you say to a practicing physician or a medical student that is nearing the end of their medical
training?
Yeah, thank you. Their medical school, going into residency, or even somebody that's in their undergrad looking into medical school. What would you say to them about the Army in your experience?
I would say
to convince them to join.
Well, that's it. That's the hard question.
Not convince them to join, but just if someone's interested in Army medicine. Sorry, Captain Parham, I didn't mean to cut in, but I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah. So, and the reason why we bring this up is because a lot of the things is what we talk about is the difference between the business aspect compared to true medicine, and being able to treat the way that you want to treat, not having to worry about insurance, et cetera, and like coming out of HBSP and doing true medicine, and then moving into the business aspect. So you've already done your portion of you've learned your specialty, you've learned what you need to do in the hospital on a daily basis. And then when you move to the civilian side. So I'm curious, obviously from a physician's perspective, if that's how you see it.
Yeah, give me 1 second, guys. My light went off. But anyway, I'll get up in a second and turn it on. I guess we're almost done. But anyway, what I would tell folks is, it's the Army is different. You get an opportunity to do a lot of different jobs. I've had an opportunity to have fun. And I think if you show folks some of the jobs that you get to do, and some of the people that you work with, not just being in a hospital, because you're going to be in a hospital regardless. But there are other things outside of the hospital that you get to do that you would only do that in the Army. So those are the things that I think need to be highlighted. what else are you going to do? You get to have fun. You get to go out and work with the warriors and the war fighters. You get to have fun. You get to work with the 82nd. You get to work with special operations. You get to work with the aviation community and the aviators. Those are the things that you get to do. Just telling folks, oh, you're going to work in a hospital. Well, I'm going to work in a hospital anyway. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Just telling folks, well, we're going to take your malpractice. Well, if you're really good, you really don't care about malpractice because you're not going to make the mistakes that get you sued. And most physicians think that regardless. So I don't think that's a big draw. I think the other draw is the HPSP. I think that's a huge draw, just because you don't have that financial obligation on the back end. So I would say you're going to have fun with what you do. You get a chance to do something different. And here, let me show you what you get an opportunity to do, and go out and look at what these physicians do, man. Because a lot of them do great things, and we don't publicize that. We just publicize what we see in hospitals. There are a lot of guys doing stuff outside of hospitals.
For sure. I absolutely agree. And this is a question really only like a division thing. It's been burning inside of me. How many jumps did you do, sir?
Which type?
Oh,
static line.
We're getting deep.
static line, which I try to avoid. I have about 58.
Woo! Solid. And the other ones you're alluding to are
the halo jumps.
Yeah. Your halo? Man, I'm blown away. I'm blown away. 100% blown away. How many halo jumps do you have, sir?
102. It's about 102. I was fortunate. Now, how many of them have I recorded? Am I supposed to have? That's a different story. It's just like diving. It's like, how many dives have you had? And that's I've had a lot of dives, and then it's like, well, how many official dives do you have? 0.
That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
But like I said, you get to do in the Army, you get to do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do, and it gives you an opportunity. If you take advantage of them, you get an opportunity to do things that most people don't do, and you get to have fun. Even as a physician.
I think we can all attest to the fact that we have a good time, and we especially enjoy recruiting and getting to talk to amazing, phenomenal professionals like yourself, and just hear just a glimpse, just a very small piece of your Army story, because I think that you could probably write a book at this point, and
Agreed.
we would all read it, because we're definitely in tune to what you're saying, and have appreciated all of your feedback, wisdom, and just hearing your story. It's been very interesting, and I've taken notes when you were giving your leadership comments.
Nice.
Just like I would if I worked for you. So we definitely have appreciated all of your guidance and just sharing your story.
Well, you guys are doing great things. I would, only thing I could tell you is keep doing what you're doing. You obviously have great leadership assisting you. Continue what you're doing, man. Bring good people on active duty. We need them, and we look forward to having them. And I hope all the folks listening get the opportunity to come on active duty. And please contact Holly and the team and get some information about Army medicine. I look forward to seeing you guys on active duty.
And that being said, Holly, I would like to, when I become your boss, I'd like for you to transition to my secretary. You're doing great things with the notes. I'm terrible with the notes. So I would really appreciate that.
Let me just put that on my tab. add that as an additional duty.
Yeah, write that down on your notes.
Right now I'm competing in this project knowledge thing where we create graphics and emails and prerequisites, and it's really bringing out my creative side, but there's just not enough hours in the day, and I tell you that. But there's always tomorrow, and that we are blessed for.
Your plan extends past 1700. You can put things past 1700.
You know, that's a joke for another time, Captain Parham.
Nice.
But Captain Linson, do you have any closing comments for the team?
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We have certainly enjoyed the conversation that we have had, and you've definitely given us a lot of nuggets to take away. You did have one more shout out in the comments, and that came from Major Singletary. She said, Colonel Robinson is awesome. And we have to agree. We have to agree. After reading your bio and definitely spending some time with you today, we agree. And thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Well, you know, and just tell her I will send her the check in the next couple of days. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
No,
well,
she's great. She's great. Over.
We definitely appreciate all of our viewers out there that have tuned in. And if everyone just wants to hang out in the broadcast room real quick, I'll go ahead and close it up. But I just left these hashtags. We are starting Army National Hiring Days, and it goes from now until June 14th. So if you are interested in Army medicine, please join us. We want you to serve with us. If you have interest, please reach out at one of the ways below. There's my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my email, my phone number. And if I can't help you, I will get you in the right direction. So I just thank everyone out there so much for tuning in. And we'll see you next time for another 5th Medical Recruiting Battalion, My Army Medicine Story.